Hey, this is Brendan Clark. Today I'm going to be talking about predatory pricing and how it can affect consumers and competition. Uh, Predatory pricing is basically when a product is priced under what it costs, and that can drive away competition. That can drive away consumers because the other competition won't be able to compete with the prices that are being offered by that specific company. This can also hurt consumers in the long run because after the company has drove away the competition, thus creating a monopoly on their product, they can then charge basically whatever price that they want for their product, and they will then basically consumers will end up paying more in the long run. That's negatively affecting consumers. A brief example of how this would be is in an article. They explain a small town that has 3 to 4 convenience stores and grocery stores, and then 3 to 4 gas stations. And one of the grocery stores decided to offer a discount on their gas. If one of the consumers spent a certain amount of money at their grocery store, they got a discount on gas. The grocery store then realized that this was bringing in a lot of new customers to the grocery store, and they were selling more gas as well. So they decided to make the discount even higher, and they were actually charging less for the gas than what it cost them to make, and the local gas stations could not keep up with competition. This would keep up with these prices, with these discounts. So the gas stations began to close down. The grocery store created a monopoly, and this grocery store was predatory pricing, basically, and they were found guilty of predatory pricing. This happens in many, many industries, and it does very negatively affect not only the economy, but it affects competition. It makes it harder for local businesses to thrive, and it causes consumers to pay more in the long run. Basically, this company, after they drove out all the gas stations, they then rose their gas prices, causing the consumers to pay even more than they were previously paying. There are the Supreme Court has made a few guidelines on what qualifies as predatory pricing and how we can prevent that. Basically, what they took a look at is they accurately priced the model, and the customer has to be charging less for the product, even if they're charging lower than the competition. They have to be charging less for the product than what it costs them to make, and they have to be able to recuperate those losses, because basically if not, then they'd be running at a loss and they'd eventually go out of business. So one of the criteria is that they would have to recuperate the losses that they incurred by underpricing their products. This is basically what we need to do is we need to avoid this. One way that we can avoid this is by these regulations, make sure that companies aren't predatory pricing, and sometimes companies are found guilty of predatory pricing. This was happened in the petroleum industry. There's a company that was charged for predatory pricing. They didn't think that they were guilty, and the defendant in the court actually proved that they're committing predatory pricing using a unit-based costing approach. They tried to counteract this. They used a simple average method that did prove that they weren't pricing the products below the cost, but this costing method didn't hold up in court. So basically what they did is they hired an accountant, they appealed the verdict that they were found guilty, and they hired an accountant to do an activity-based approach where they went in a little bit more detail on basically what the actual costs were for the company, and this did end up proving that they weren't guilty of predatory pricing. They found that the costing was accurate, that they weren't underpricing their products, and that they were found not guilty. So some ways to avoid hurting these consumers and hurting the economy is accurately evaluate our costs using the costing methods that we are required to use. Make sure that we're pricing our products and that we don't have any intent of hurting our customers. Basically being ethical, as we always learn in accounting class. But predatory pricing can be a very negative thing to customers and competition, and it is definitely something that can be avoided, that you should not be found guilty of if you're accurately costing your products, unless you definitely have that intent. And then we have those two tests, if we are underpricing and if we can recuperate our loss, to ensure that companies that are committing predatory pricing are found guilty. I hope that this presentation was informative, and thank you for your time.